On June 12, 2025, Air India flight AI171, operated by a Boeing 787-8, crashed just seconds after takeoff from Ahmedabad Airport. The aircraft had lifted off from runway 23, began climbing normally, and then, in less than 10 seconds, began descending rapidly. Pilots did a mayday call, but tragically, the flight ended in a fatal crash, crashing into a medical college, taking 241 out of the 242 on board and 19 on ground with it. This is aeropathology, where we dissect aircraft crashes with surgical precision. Investigators found something shocking in the preliminary report. Within 3 seconds of liftoff, both engine fuel control switches were manually set to cut off in flight. 10 seconds later, the switches were set back to run, but by then, the engines had already shut down. The pilots attempted a restart, the APU was running, the RAT deployed, but altitude and time had run out. Let's say the aircraft left the ground at T+0 seconds, then at T+3 seconds. Engine 1 fuel switch was set to cut off. Then in 1 second, engine 2 fuel switch was also set to cut off. Then we hear, "Why did you cut off?" To which the answer was, "I didn't," in the CVR. The plane crashed at T+33 seconds. The lone survivor said he saw flight attendants and other passengers die in front of his eyes, meaning the impact itself was survivable, but the result after that wasn't. See here, the flight deck was found 650 feet away from the impact point. That was the scale of the explosion. Yet many survived, but didn't make it out alive. Why would anyone shut down both engines just after takeoff, when there was no fire, no system warning, no engine surge? This video isn't about blaming pilots. It's about what the aircraft could have done by itself. Because one thing is clear, those switches didn't flip themselves. And if human error is the root cause, then maybe human oversight in software design shares the blame. See, aircraft engines are controlled by digital systems called FADEC, Full Authority Digital Engine Control. These are computer brains that take pilot inputs and control the engine accordingly. But FADEC doesn't ask why a pilot is requesting something. It simply executes, like a light bulb switch. But what if, during flight, the FADEC simply asked, "Is this safe?" We're not talking about AI, not even advanced software. We're talking about a simple condition check, a few lines of logic that would block an unsafe action if certain conditions weren't met. In C language, something like this could have existed inside the FADEC or the aircraft's engine control logic. That's it. 10 lines, maybe fewer depending on formatting. A logic gate. If there's no engine failure and the plane is airborne, and the pilot requests a fuel cutoff, the system just says no, or at least it double-checks. Of course, a pilot can override everything in a real emergency, but this would block an accidental, irrational, or confused command from executing when it shouldn't. This crash might have been prevented by a digital "Are you sure?" confirmation, just like how your computer asks before deleting a file. A plane worth hundreds of millions, carrying hundreds of lives, obeyed an unsafe shutdown command without hesitation. That is not just a pilot issue. That's a software design failure. Imagine if the logic was in place. The pilot pulls the fuel switches by mistake or panic. But instead of both engines dying, the FADEC stops the command, alerts the crew, and keeps the engines running. The plane climbs safely. It returns to the airport. Nobody dies. A bad day, not a tragedy. In safety-critical systems, we don't blame people. We design for failure. That means creating layers of logic that protect humans from themselves. Not because they're stupid, but because they're human. So, could 10 lines of code have prevented AI171? We don't know for sure. But we know this. The system didn't ask why. And next time, it should. This is Aeropathology Episode 1.